We should consider ourselves very lucky that, in our real world of established and cataloged geography, we don't suddenly and at random exchange the names of continents, nations, and planets at will. For no reason at all would we suddenly have a declaration from the European Union that their continent would suddenly be named France. And even though Europe would now be France, France would also still be France. And good luck figuring out which is which in casual conversation. Such is the case with the home planet, currently at least, of Warcraft, Azeroth. Because Azeroth wasn't always Azeroth. Once, it was the name of a sprawling human kingdom. Then, for a short time during Warcraft 2, while the nation of Azeroth still existed, the continent of the Eastern Kingdoms, or at least a part of it, was also Azeroth. Then, when we get to Warcraft 3, suddenly nothing was Azeroth, until we finally get to World of Warcraft, and Azeroth the planet was Azeroth, and good lord, that was one heck of a paragraph to say out loud. Welcome to Ancient Lore, a discussion series where we peel back the layers of world building and story to examine, understand, and discuss where we came from in the World of Warcraft. Today's topic is, what the heck is Azeroth anyhow? And as always, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below or connect with me on my Discord. The concept of Azeroth, quote-unquote, as the main character of Warcraft isn't new to World of Warcraft expansions by any means. In truth, much of the early RTS posed the Kingdom of Azeroth, later known as the Kingdom of Stormwind, very much as the good guys, even though there's big quotation marks around that. Even as we progress through Warcraft 2, playing as the Alliance, you're the regional commander leading the Alliance and Azeroth's forces against the Orcish hordes. Fast forward to Warcraft 3. Suddenly, you don't hear a single mention of Azeroth ever. It feels almost otherworldly how you don't hear the word at any point throughout the campaigns. Not even the demonic legions bring up the name of the world, almost as if they're avoiding saying the proper name of the planet, lest they invoke the ire of its inhabitants. No Kingdom of Azeroth, no continent, no World of Azeroth, ever. Let's break down the trajectory of the name Azeroth, what it meant at each stage of the Warcraft Universe's development, and have a little fun poking holes in the logical hiccups that the name took over time. Starting with Warcraft 1, the whole world was confined to a third of the southern portion of the Eastern Kingdom, with the region as well as the human kingdom there both being referred to as Azeroth. The Kingdom of Azeroth was well known to be the strongest and most prosperous of the human kingdoms, led by the venerable King Lane Rin, and despite an initial shock assault by the Orcish hordes on Stormwind, the Knights of the Brotherhood of the Horse held the line against them for well over a decade. King Lane and Azeroth were well respected across the Eastern Kingdoms for their ability to keep the orcs in check. Were it not for the swamplands and how dense and difficult they are to navigate, the horde may very well have been cleared out and pushed back to the portal years before Stormwind was ever sacked in the first place. In that time, Azeroth was the main character standing against the horde's unbridled destructive force. And while it didn't last once Blackhand and his mysterious Shadow Council manipulators took over, that legacy of standing against the darkness set a precedent for the rest of the Warcraft franchise. In the Tides of Darkness, Azeroth's refugees were front and center in the defense of the northern kingdoms against the Horde, with Anduin Lothar, the Regent Lord of Azeroth, commanding the unified Alliance forces against the Orcish onslaught. Throughout the Second War, Azeroth was still referred to as both the nation and the continent of the southern half of the Eastern Kingdoms. This has changed slightly from Warcraft 1. However, when we approach Warcraft 3, and the globe-trotting that follows, you suddenly never hear the word said or written. As mentioned previously in this piece, it's almost shocking how the term simply stopped existing, like it never existed in the first place. My theory on this, and I feel it's a safe one, is that Blizzard was at the time still considering just the southern half of the Eastern Kingdoms, even though the Eastern Kingdoms weren't called that yet, as Azeroth. The only location that doesn't have any kind of action during the Third War, an invasion of the Burning Legion, is the southern half of the Eastern Kingdoms, Azeroth. They never talked about it because it was never involved in anything. And then the big transmogrification happens. We make the 4-year jump to World of Warcraft, and in the opening dialogue, the very first trailer that you see when you open the World of Warcraft client for the first time, Sylvanas' voice actress states specifically that the mortal races banded together to save Azeroth. While the graphic that appears on screen shows Azeroth representing the southern half of the Eastern Kingdom still, there was no Burning Legion invasion there as stated previously. She must have meant the world then. It's the only way that statement makes sense. Here we have the first time that when someone has said Azeroth, it wasn't a nation or a continent, but in fact, the whole of the known world. After this point, the concept of Azeroth opens up dramatically. Many times when we see the term used in a way that refers to the world, it's in the context of Titan constructs and facilities, or the infections of the old gods, and even how the many races evolved to their current state, either through manipulations or happenstance. Many of the times we encounter Bran Bronzebeard through Vanilla and Wrath, he's exploring the depths of the history of Azeroth, pushing the boundaries of what we know about how and why the Titans did what they did, to the point where because of him we plunge into Ulduar, and need to stop the reorigination of the planet in an encounter with Algalon the Observer, one of the greatest boss fights to ever grace World of Warcraft's raids. In this, we get our biggest piece of where Blizzard took the concept of Azeroth, and unfortunately where it ended up going in later Warcraft expansions. It had turned from a nation to a continent to now the name of the planet itself, and something that had to be tended to and cared for. It had something vital that the Burning Legion demanded, and protecting it meant making sacrifices. In later expansions, this manifested itself in Azeroth having a Titan World Soul in it, to Azeroth being the Titan World Soul, to then that whole storyline being dropped entirely, like so many of the less than stellar later storylines would be. While I don't respect or appreciate the stories we got of Azeroth's World Soul or the Titan lore from Legion and BFA, seeing that its beginnings had noble intentions in Vanilla and Wrath gives me some solace, and is honestly some of the very decent lore from Wrath I respect to this day. In future episodes, we'll go into greater detail with the old gods, their warping and maddening influence, as well as more detail as to how the world has changed and evolved, sometimes in the weirdest ways over the years. I'm especially looking forward to presenting my thoughts on Cthulhu and Yogg-Saron, and bringing just a little cosmic horror into the Warcraft universe. We close this book of Warcraft history here and save the rest for another time. If you've enjoyed this feature, please consider subscribing here at youtube.com/theDanNation, as well as joining my Discord at tinyurl.com/Danscord. It's Discord, but with 100% more Dan. From the Lore Bunker in Boston, Massachusetts, this is Dan wishing you a wonderful and wide, wide world of lore.